Yes, if you have not heard, the title is real. This is not just some clickbait nonsense. Dice Throne has officially said that they are in development fully for their Dice Throne digital service game, whatever you want to call it, where we're going to be able to play without some third-party tool, without using Tabletop Simulator, anything like that. We're just going to have a true, actual online method of playing the game. I'm super excited. I want to talk to you about what's going on, what's happening, what we know, what we don't know, and maybe what we can hope to expect. So diving right in, for those of you that are not aware, there have been a couple of methods to play Dice Throne online. The main way that you'll see a lot of people doing it is just through webcam, where they will have a webcam set up and it will show basically their whole board, their deck, and all that stuff, and as for the opponent, and they will play that way. Now that is totally fine, especially if you're playing with a friend that's maybe out of state, or maybe you don't live next to each other, or whatever the case may be. That's fine. A lot of the problem with that method tends to come from if you're trying to run a competitive environment. It gets a little iffy, right? If there's things like disconnects that happen, it's a lot of problems in terms of cheating that could happen. Not to say that a lot of cheating does happen, but it could pretty easily, right? A camera can't cover and see literally everything, and then on top of that, if someone really wants to, you can fake things on a camera. It's unfortunate, but it is just the reality we live in. The other main way that you would see people playing is on Tabletop Simulator. The main problem with that is they were not, and they being the people who actually develop and create Dice Throne, for whatever reason, we're not a big fan of actually having all of Dice Throne on Tabletop Simulator. Now, that we have this announced with Dice Throne Digital, that's probably the reasoning why. But typically, if you wanted to play on any of the official Dice Throne stuff, you had the option of up to about 8-ish characters that you could play and try out and test. If you wanted the other ones, you either had to kind of create it custom and import everything yourself, or find someone that had it imported and play with them. But those were really the only ways to do it, and they, for obvious reasons, weren't ideal. So, as for Dice Throne Digital, what do we actually know about it? And while it's not a lot, we do have more information than I think some people realize, starting with the easy stuff, and that being that the actual producers of the game are going to be Nerd Ninjas. Now, if you are not aware, the actual founder of this company is Nate, and Nate is one of the co-founders of Dice Throne, so it's honestly the perfect pairing. It's probably going to make it super easy in terms of communication, and the different teams talking to one another about what they want, what they don't want, all that good stuff. Now, while this isn't technically a known fact about the game, we do have this screenshot right here, which is actually provided in a fan survey that they put out not too long ago that was asking a lot of questions basically around the idea of how much would you be willing to pay, what kind of model do you want to see, what characters do you want to see, do you want just PvP, do you want single player content, all that kind of stuff. And if you haven't taken it, I highly recommend joining the actual official Dice Throne Discord and then taking it. It's the only way your voice is going to get heard, and you're going to be able to have an impact on what they do and what kind of route they take. But within that and this screenshot that you can see right here, we do know a couple of things. One, they are looking into single player stuff like a campaign. Campaign is not Dice Throne Adventures, which I find interesting. So what that tells me is that they are kind of trying to have some single-player content that isn't just Dice Throne Adventures. And on top of that, we have the online and ranked play and things like that. But what I love is that there is a ranked tab already, because it does show that for us crazy human beings that like to dive into Dice Throne and take it probably a little too seriously, they're looking to actually have a ranked mode where assumingly there will be some kind of ladder. Maybe you earn ranked points, some kind of leaderboard. Obviously, we don't know the exact details, but hey, there's almost assuredly going to be a ranked mode, and I mean, if it's not confirmed, it darn near is with this screenshot. Now, as far as my own personal wishlist goes and things that I would love to see function or things that I would love to see how they work, obviously, ranked, as we've already discussed, is kind of pseudo-confirmed, and I think it would be really, really cool. I would love to see some kind of ladder system, even just something as simple like Hearthstone, where you could just climb the ranks until you hit that legend rank or whatever they want to call it, and from that point on you climb the leaderboard to try to hit number 1 or top 10,000, whatever it may go to, anything like that. I think those are super clean and crisp systems that are just very nice. Something that hasn't been mentioned but I think would be really cool is them including the 2v2 format. They already include it in their in-person tournaments, so to me it just makes sense to include it in the actual system itself. Now if they do that, I really, really hope that they are logical enough, and I imagine they are, to have a separate leaderboard Please, please, please do not have a leaderboard where you just earn points for playing/winning games, and then it just turns into a system of, oh, whoever plays the most gets the highest on the leaderboard. Have an actual system of losing for losing and winning for winning. It sounds silly, but a lot of games mess that up, and it's honestly a very simple thing to get right. When discussing Dice Throne Digital, you cannot unfortunately avoid the most contentious of all the topics, which is the monetization model that will be had. And it's contentious not because they've said anything about it, but honestly because they haven't. There are 50 different ways to go about it. Each way is going to make people happy, and this is probably going to be the largest chunk of the video where I want to go through what I think are all of the main possible methods, the pros and cons to each of them, and I'll even talk about some of the methods that I have heard thrown around that I think need to be addressed in the sense of, hey, it's just a bad idea. Now, to address what I think is one of the most crucial points to get across, because not everyone understands this, is that you will not be getting anything just because you own the physical versions of Dice Throne in Dice Throne Digital, all right? And there's been some people upset about that, and as someone who owns all of the playable Dice Throne stuff, I get it. It'd be super cool if I could somehow transfer these into the digital game and then get them all for free since I've already purchased them. There's a few things to acknowledge. One, there's no realistic way for them to validate that. Let's just be honest. You would, submit a photo of it, and, you could just give that photo to 50 different friends, and then what are they going to do? But even past the validation point, it's also just a different product. And I think that is something that a lot of us, or a lot of the people that were upset about that, need to kind of understand, is it's a new thing. They're making this from the ground up. And hey, maybe in the future they do something like what Pokemon TCG does, where you get a little code in your pack and you can use that code online to get a free pack digitally. And that's really cool. That's really sick. And maybe it's something they do in the future. But as of right now, that is just not the case. And hey, it's unfortunate, but it's just how it is. Now, as for actual monetization models, there's a few different options they can go with. I'm going to talk about my favorites, my least favorites. We're going to start off with probably the easiest to understand, which is just the one-time purchase, you get everything model. The main con of this model that I see is, one, it would have a super high price point to enter, and that is an issue. They're making a digital game. This is just inherently a different thing from Dice Throne. It will play the same, it will be the same, but it's a different product. And not only is it a different product, but it has a good chance to pull in an audience that didn't previously play Dice Throne. And as a fan of Dice Throne, I love that. I would love to see the game grow more and more. It's already grown way more than I thought it would. So digitally, it can reach even more people. If you have a big chunk price point, let's say it's $100, and you get everything forever in Dice Throne Digital, that's really, really cool. But how many people are going to be willing to pay $100 to try a game? For us old heads that have been playing for a long time, that's great. I mean, that's every single character. The amount of content you get for that $100 is crazy. That's amazing. But again, you don't want to be looking at it in terms of us, but look at it in terms of those that haven't played as much Dice Throne, or maybe don't own as many Dice Throne products. It's just not realistic, I think, for someone to be expected to chop up $100 or whatever the price point may be, and then receive everything. Unfortunately, I just think that's where that falls the most short, is it closes off a lot of new people, and it would just be a really hefty price point to have to jump in at. Now, up next, there is sort of the step down from the just pay to enter model, we'll call it, or pay to play specifically. And there's the kind of pay to play, but you buy packs as well. And the way this might work, or the way you might see this working, is maybe it's $30 to get the game. And that gives you maybe the whole first base set of 8 characters. Really cool. We love that. Really great. And then from that point on, you can buy chunks of characters or characters individually that let you in. This, I think, is better than the complete, full pay for the whole game model. It's a little more forgiving for people that want to just get in and try it. And then on top of that, for those of us that maybe don't have as much money, that might not be able to spend as much, you're able to enter in again at a lower price point, and you can buy the characters you want, and you're not required to spend a ton of money up front for maybe a character that you'll never play. Maybe you hate Tactician, and you think he is the worst character alive. Why should you be forced to pay for that character and to pay to play that character when you're not going to play them? It's just silly. That's why I think Dice Throne works so well, is that you can buy the character packs of the ones that you want. or you can be a psycho like me and buy all of them, but that's besides the point. Now, taking another step down from that, that's going to be your actual free-to-play model, all right? Now, the free-to-play model is the one that I actually believe in the most, that I think would be the most successful. And the reason being is because, well, it's free to play. And let's say you get to load the game up, download the game, and you get Barbarian, maybe Barbarian and Moon Elf for free, being like the starting pack digitally, all right? Super cool, super great. And then from there, if you start to like the game, you can buy the characters in packs or individually, like the last model, but it's just free to enter, but you get less for that initial bump, right? The main benefits of this one, free to play. That's huge, obviously. I mean, you're completely knocking off something that might deter someone from trying the game, which is a price point. If they load up the game, they play around Moon Elf, and they go, oh, this dice rolling thing's pretty cool. This is pretty fun. They might be inclined to buy more packs and buy more characters. On top of this, and this is kind of getting into the weeds of the free-to-play mode, but in the free-to-play mode, if you go that route, you can also have things like a rotation, which is kind of what like League of Legends has, for those of you that know how that works, where every week there are certain champions, or in this case, certain heroes that would be free to play. So let's say the first week it's out, you can play Barbarian, Moon Elf, Samurai, and Gunslinger, right? Super cool. And then starting the next week, you still have Barbarian and Moon Elf, but then that Samurai Gunslinger swap, and it becomes Ninja and Paladin, or some other combined two, right? This does a couple of things of allowing people to try characters that maybe they wouldn't try otherwise, giving you variants of options to actually try different things, and then two, just encouraging people to possibly buy something if they end up liking it and enjoying it. Now, the one thing I will say, and the biggest con of free-to-play, because I'm going to be fair and give all their cons, is it could theoretically make you the least amount of money. I don't think it would, because I think you would in turn get more players that are going to then buy even just a character or two, whereas you probably would have a lot of people not even try the game with a pay-to-enter model. But that is a possible con and a possible risk you take if you choose to make the game free-to-play. You just really have to find that right balance of free-to-play, of offering the people enough of the game to be like, yes, I like this, I want to play more of this, but not so much that they just go, oh, well, why spend money when I'm enjoying this free-to-play so much? Now, obviously, there are many nuances with all of these modes. The one thing I will say that I think is another benefit of going free-to-play is it allows you to lean more into cosmetics a lot when you technically can, but it feels a little more when you do it for the pay-to-play or pay-to-enter. If I'm dropping $100 to get everything all at once, I'm going to feel a lot less inclined to buy your battle pass or buy your cool skin or buy your whatever. And I'd imagine for a digital game, they're going to have things like that. I'd be surprised if they didn't have some kind of board skin or dice skin or even just card backs or maybe backgrounds or tables you can play on. There's a billion different things you can do for games like this in terms of cosmetics. And when you go the pay-to-play route, typically you will find that it will turn players off of those. And a big problem when you turn players off of those is those can be one of your biggest money-making things. In a lot of games you will see, and I mean a lot of them, cosmetics tend to be one of the single best-selling parts of a game. Most of the time. Not always, obviously, but most of the time. Now, the last one that I saw that someone suggested, which I just genuinely strongly disagree with this, but I'm going to throw it out there as an option, is a subscription model where you pay maybe $10 a month and you get every single character and you have them, but once that month ends, it's taken away from you, right? Something like World of Warcraft. Let me be clear, and that I see the benefit, right? Inherently, let's say it was $10 a month, that's $120. If they made it $100 for the full game, then you're getting the year's worth anyway, but it could be, whatever. It really depends on the pricing of things. But I see the benefit. And then another big benefit that people talk about is, you're not always going to have time to play games in your life. You're going to have things come up, you're going to have busy months, you're going to have busy whatevers. So sometimes it's kind of nice to, I just won't pay for this month because I don't have to. I'm not going to play it anyway. I hope they don't go subscription model. I personally think it's not a great way to go about things. I think for a lot, and I mean a lot of gamers, both board gamers, video gamers, all of the above, as soon as you see a subscription model for something that you have to pay monthly for or annually or whatever, it just feels gross. There's just something about it that doesn't feel right, that doesn't hit. It feels like a very old school way of actually getting people to pay for things, and I'm personally not a fan of it, but hey, it's an option. So all that being said, that is enough talk about money. All right, we have done that due diligence. I'm excited. I'm super pumped. I'm sure we're going to get more news as time goes on, and I will try to update y'all as soon as we know where I can get a video out. I'm super excited. Eventually, they're going to have a Kickstarter for this. They're going to have something that I imagine you can get in early and maybe get a discount on characters, or maybe even get some kind of pass that perma unlocks all the characters for you. Who knows? Nobody knows what's happening yet, but these are all of the possibilities, all of the hopes and wishes. Let me know down in the comments if there's something that y'all are interested in. Maybe there's something I didn't mention. Maybe there's an entire monetization model that I didn't say that you think could work super well for this game. But nonetheless, I hope y'all have a good one, and I will see y'all on the next one. Peace out.